It's so much fun to hear April pretending to be ancient. In my mind, she's a teenager living around the corner from us in the daily edition. I didn't realize she had actually grown up and became a substantial person in the church. But thank you for that wonderful message. I think you put your finger on a very formative and blessed time for congregation. Sometimes when we go through struggle, we come out stronger and more richly blessed and ready for the future. I wanted to begin with a quotation from the Gospel of Winnie the Pooh. Christopher Robin and Pooh Bear are sitting quietly on a grassy bank, looking out on a lush green field with some woods in the distance. Pooh Bear turns to his friend and he says, "If there's ever a time when we can't be together, will you keep me in your heart? And I'll stay there forever." Pooh Bear in these words is giving a voice to one of the deepest yearnings of the human heart, the desire to be remembered. And if we remember those who have shared our life journey, then at some level they are still with us. Through that act of remembrance, they are powerfully present in our lives, and they still bless us as they did when they were right next to us. I don't know, you've already heard this morning that I really miss Harris Casa. And his quiet wisdom and loyal friendship sustained me in countless ways. I miss Ransom Bolson, our most loyal usher and occasional gadfly. He was known to argue against raises for the pastor at the annual meeting, but 2 days later, he would show up with a freshly dressed chicken, sort of a peace offering. And I understood perfectly what was going on. You see, Ransom was a fiscal conservative, but he really wanted the pastor to be his friend. And I was very happy to oblige. The pastor can never have too many friends. And I was happy to oblige. I miss my friend Ransom Bolson. I miss Lydia Sunday, our one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met in my life, with her deep faith and grateful spirit and her unique sense of humor. Lydia was in the hospital one time and a friend came and said, "Lydia, I came to cheer you up. I hear you're not doing so well." And Lydia said, "I thought that was so funny, it actually did cheer me up." I miss Paul Haswell. I don't know if you know it, but Paul and I were friends long before he came to Good Shepherd. We went back to the seminary days. And I was always in awe of his prodigious scholarship and came later to admire even more his heart that was as big as the world, and his love and care for needy people, people with refugees, people with mental and physical handicaps, and for whom he became a tireless champion and advocate. I miss Paul Haswell. I miss Charlotte Hexam, who used to call me up on Monday and regularly criticize me for my sermon, not the sermon, but the hymn choices. But bless her soul, she faithfully kept me informed about who was in the hospital and what shut-ins in the congregation were in need of a home visit by the pastor. Every pastor needs a Charlotte Hexam to keep him or her on their toes. I miss Mike Chomey, who came back from his ordeal in Vietnam with so much to teach us. He shared his gratitude for his scout leaders that taught him survival skills that really he needed when he was there in the jungles of Vietnam as a prisoner. And he expressed his gratitude for his Sunday school teachers that taught him prayers and scripture passages. And those scripture passages enabled him to hang on to hope during those darkest hours when he was a prisoner. And he also changed our thinking about the Viet Cong. He told us about some that were cruel to him, but he also told us about 2 soldiers that risked their lives to stay with him when he became ill. They stayed behind and nursed him back to health so they could then rejoin their unit. I mean, practical solution for the Viet Cong would have been to kill him. He had become a liability. But those 2 Viet Cong soldiers, saved his life and brought him back to us. And it was such a thrill when Mike came back, and I still have that picture in mind of him riding on the top of the fire engine down the main streets of Decorah. And such a reward for the prayers of so many people in this community and here at Good Shepherd. I miss Mrs. Smalley, such a humble servant in our midst. And she had such a gentle, loving spirit. I found myself smiling whenever I was in her presence. I thought maybe her name should be Mrs. Smiley. Every pastor and every congregation needs a few faithful servants to take care of things. I miss George Knudsen and his wife Helen. George was the go-to guy here at Good Shepherd in all kinds of situations. Plumbing, call George. Carpentry project, call George. If there had to be some fence mending between people, George was the one, that I would rely on. He would go with me to handle some of the more difficult situations. And every pastor needs someone like that. I think George was the one for whom that expression was invented, let George do it. I miss Mrs. N. Ostrup Larson. Most of you maybe have forgotten her, but this very fine, aristocratic lady. She and her husband had been missionaries in China. Her husband had been the equivalent of a bishop. And she had had all kinds of exciting experiences. I'd been here a week when she invited me over for tea. And I thought we were going to talk about China. She didn't want to talk about China. She wanted to talk about how excited she was about the new crop of women freshmen that had arrived on the campus at Luther College. She was just in delight over the quality and the enthusiasm and the giftedness of these young women that had come to Luther College. Mrs. N. Ostrup Larson, by the way, was the founder and head of the Altar Guild at Good Shepherd. And she knew exactly how everything was supposed to be done. Did you know that those purificators, those little communion napkins, if they're ironed and folded right, you will have 9 perfectly uniform squares there in those purificators. I think it's wonderful. We need people who carry the weight of history on their shoulders, but whose eyes, like Mrs. N. Ostrup Larson, are fastened eagerly on the future opening up before us. I miss Bud Barr, and he's one of the more recent ones on this list of people that are no longer with us. And Bud was such a good friend, and we had a secret together. Bud grew up just about 3 miles where I grew up in central Wisconsin, and he had 2 beautiful sisters, Nadine and Maureen Barr. And they were the first girls that I had a crush on. And in fact, one day in the winter, I crawled into a snow house and where I met Maureen coming the other direction. And I gave her a little pick on the cheek. And that was my first kiss. I brought that subject up some years later when Maureen was visiting here in Decorah. She had no memory of it whatsoever. Never happened. Anyway, I miss Bud Barr and the depth of his friendship, and whenever we came back, it was great to connect up with him. And I miss Warren and Jan Bird, and I'd forgotten to put that name on the list until I heard Eric being introduced. Warren and Jan brought such energy and were involved in so many things, including Warren was the first director of the Scandinavian Teachers Program on Luther College campus. And I'm sure you folks all know what happened at the first time. It was a nice sunny day, and these lovely ladies from Sweden and Norway were out in front of the dormitory sunbathing in the nude. And Warren had to go and tell them, "This is Decorah, Iowa." I'm not sure the folks are comfortable with that. So they made the necessary adjustments. That's just a small sample of the host of people who, like Pooh Bear, are held lovingly in my memory. Thank you.